then diagnosis sa kuan, PT diagnosis, anatomy and physiology. Pero kita dili man ta mo focus og kana mga microbiology, biochemistry, di ba? Dili man ta mag-deal mostly inana mga mga topics. So gi-highlight ako diri, each profession requires different levels of knowledge in specific areas o specific areas na to ginakuan katong anatomy, physiology. So the goal should be to develop a curriculum that balances an appropriate broad foundation and an in-depth knowledge and a clear understanding in specific areas required for clinical practice. So motto, in-depth knowledge sa basic sciences para po natay ko knowledgeable and to understand it, how are we going to apply it in clinical practice. So stakeholders including clinicians, educators, and basic scientists take part in determining the content for curriculum. So strategies for integrating basic sciences into innovative curricula. So here we'll be talking about strategies yun sa nila pag-apply kaning para manay active learning experience ang students. Okay, so first strategy. An integrated curriculum can be designed so that links and bridges replace the boundaries and conventionally divide the subjects. So, for example, since there is an obvious relationship between structure and function, a learner requires knowledge in order to gain an understanding of the other. So, expand biology. So, anatomy does not function without physiology. So, mo ganang integrated curriculum, kailangan kanang need ang one side of kanang basic science in order to proceed ay kanang bitang ma-heighten atong knowledge about the other subject could be. So, anatomy and physiology always kanang need yun na sila integrate. So, dili kay PT man ta, alangan naman mag-anatomy lang ta pirmi. So, dapat na po dyan physiologic process para makabalo po ito sa functions. Okay, so strategy number 2. So, basic sciences content can be incorporated into curriculum using a number of complementary pedagogical strategies. So, for example, a tutorial problem with an elderly female patient who sustains a hip fracture could be used as a stimulus for students to learn about the structure, function of a normal hip joint, the structure and function of bone, the effects of aging for bone metabolism, pathology, complications, and the process of inflammation, repair, and fracture healing. So, kani mga strategies nila on how students are going to learn. Gigamit diri kay ang tutorial nga process para ma-ignite ang ang critical thinking sa students for them to learn kanang a specific subject or kanang topics with regards sa mga cases. For example, diri kay hip joint man, so makabalo sila mga structure, function, mga specific jud kay ba. Where gigamit nila kanang mura real life situations na ila yung ma-engage sila. And for the third strategy, in order to plan the integrated curriculum, it is useful to develop a grid with content or themes on one axis and areas where the content can be introduced on the other axis. So a content map or grid helps track when and where to introduce material, enabling students to assess their progress and to develop their learning agenda. So muna siyang example sa kaning grid or content map. So dire gibutang nilang anatomy, physiology, pathology, inflammation, then lifespan changes. Ilang gibutang dire nga sa anatomy kay ilan ang ilist nila nga okay na cover ni dire tapit, then unsa may unsa may physiologic process ani or kanang pathophysiology ani nga problem, so ma-involve na nila tanan. So ilang ihan ay tanan mga mga areas nga ma-involve within kaning kani for example kaning situation bitaw or kaning case. Okay, so grid content map. So next, so it is important to consider when and how to introduce content in order to achieve the most powerful stimulus for learning. So, ugali, if topic kay certain cases nga i-present ang teacher or professor, so usually ilan ang sige ni kanang i-consider o kanang timing nila ba kanang saan nila i-introduce kani nga parts sa topic sa part or parts sa iyang anatomy or physiology with regards to the disease, di ba? Kailangan jud na ikuan bitaw kanang timing kung kanus o unsaon nila or nato pag-introduce inani mga topics. So selecting learning resources. So in many programs, the teaching faculty are responsible for developing, providing, or identifying learning resources, whereas in others, students are also expected to seek out and appropriate resources in their own. So, do you want gusto ka guan functional anatomy? So, students can go to human laboratory. Na mga kuan ito, mga resources, example kanang tong sa tuwa kay na mga bones, ana tong skeletons. Then sa uban pod in other kuan schools na sa mga cadaver, inana para makabalo sa functional anatomy subject. Then if gusto po nila recent advances like mga new techniques on how to deal with stroke, isa pa na diabetes na related Parkinson's, mga access, mga new pwede sa access through appropriate journals or even expert or investigator doing that research in their area. So mga journals like mga legit nga sites like katong yung ni Cernes, katong sa Pedro, pwede ba sa Google Scholar, NCBI o ganing PubMed. And since students use a range of strategies for their learning, ideally resources should be sufficient and varied, adaptable to be used effectively by different students. So some students may be visual learners, tactile learners, or auditory learners. So in case sa atong situation karon since naman dyan yung mga students na visual learners, so mas advantage sa ila kay mas heightened ilang knowledge or kanang kini application sa ilang knowledge with regards kay naning mga settings like sa online learning. Pero how about those katong mga students nga tactile learners or auditory learners? Napoy uban kanang maka-learn lang sila through kanang engage in kanang conversation with their professor, like asking questions. So na students nga the more they ask questions, the more they learn. So it should be resources should be adaptable kanang sa all kinds of learners kay of course different biyang intelligences sa students. So in addition to the VAK or visual auditory kinesthetic learning style, faculty should also consider the theories of multiple intelligences, so MOTO, so which focuses on the effects of personality patterns on learning, so katong verbal, linguistic, spatial, body kinesthetic, or even interpersonal intelligences. So magvary jud ang intelligences sa students. So ang learning style nga i-apply sa teacher kay dapat adaptable to all. Dili lang kanang like auditory lang mag-present lang o kanang auditory nga lessons ay through audio or kanang visual lang. So dapat tanan jud ma-accommodate tanan bitaw nga learning styles. So the resources in the laboratory included kaning makita nato sa resources should na jud ni dapat sila. So they dissected anatomical specimens, learning modules, so audio-visual resources, textbooks and atlases, digital and computer-based programs including network links, x-rays and cross-sectional images, pathology specimens, several ultrasounds units, a range of other resources developed for specific purposes. So, kani, gikaan mi diri nga, pero, all with this kind of resources available in the laboratory, makater jud ang different learning styles sa students. So, unang importante jud dapat nga dapat jud i-consider ang intelligence sa students kay dili lang parehas sila tanan og kind of kanang parehas og learning style. So, kailangan jud tanan as a whole nga makater tanan. Okay, so several years ago, ultrasound imaging resource was developed for the human laboratory anatomy. So ultrasound can view the living body and movement of structures. Example would be an opening and closing of the heart valves during cardiac cycle, moving up and down of liver and kidneys and other organs. So recently, computer-based resources are used to facilitate student learning. So ang example lang karon nga situation for, di ba? If natay mga like sige gusto to makatuon kung unsa ni siya pag-move sa muscles or unsa ning exercises involved, pwede na to ma-access through internet or kana mga resources sa internet nga naghatag ana mga kuan mga topics. So, but there's always a catch with regards kanang using of computer-based resources. So, although computer-based resources involves kanang online, it is quite helpful in some ways. It is only through the handling, but it is only through the handling and palpation of specimens that a student can gain a real understanding of the three-dimensional structure and its relationship to function. So, human body is the most important resource in learning anatomy. So, there's always a catch kung if you only depend on computer learning resources, kay actual wala actual
Mana?
Na-disconnect
Disconnect puro siya, sir.
Wala siya.
Disconnect si Rogue. Sige na, we will wait for it. So, nindot siya ang discussion ni Rogues when it comes to sciences curriculum or sciences courses. We need to have a complete, no? Complete siya nga dapat na ay consider yun nato ang different kinds of pedagogy of learning which basically involves siya of kinesthetic, audio visual, no? Kay
internet connection should be fast para po dali maka-access.
Rogs, excuse me Rogs, ang imong presentation naputol man. Ibalik to. Naputol ka, dito ka dapit na sa may unsa to?
Dapat first.
Asa to nga slide da, Jo?
Ito nga slide. Sorry.
Itong na yung mga naka-bullet na resources ya.
Resources, internet. Basically, internet.
Wala yung
present to siya otro. Stop ang sharing. Din present.
Okay. Kita ni?
Okay, gana.
Sorry.
Na. Okay.
Kani siya? Diri nga, answer.
katong orange, yung two colors yung background niya.
Kana, dito.
Kana, resources.
Okay, resources. So, here are some things nga i-consider kanang that should be available sa laboratory or human anatomy laboratories. So, there should be undissected anatomical specimens, learning modules, audiovisual resources, textbooks and atlases, digital and computer-based programs including network links, X-rays and cross-sectional images, pathology specimens, several ultrasound units, a range of other resources developed for specific purposes. So, nga naman dapat na different resources. Makita nito sa human anatomy laboratory or sa laboratories. Kay the reason nga nung vary ni siya is because students have different learning styles. So, naiuban katong mention ako ngayon na visual, na siya audio, or na tactile. So kailangan jud ma-accommodate na siya tanan nga learning styles para tanan students makabalo. Kay if only visual resources lang atong or ang hatag or sa mga students, dili makuha or dili makuha tong whole gist sa idea about certain topics. Okay, so several years ago, ultrasound imaging, ginagamit ni siya sa Human Anatomy Laboratory for viewing living body and movement of structures. Example, kay itong opening and closing of heart valves during cardiac cycle, or moving up and down sa kidneys and other organs. So, mo to siya kanang makita jud mo siya on innovation. Okay, so recently, computer-based learning resources kay gi-introduce, especially karon nga situation wherein online learning na ta, so kailangan to mo adapt jud ani nga kind of situation. So it is used also to facilitate student learning. But there's always a catch sa paggamit ato sa nga computer-based learning resources. So although computer-based resources is quite helpful in some ways, it is only through handling and palpation of specimens that the student can gain a real understanding of three-dimensional structure and relationship to function. So body is the most important resource in learning anatomy. So as akong discuss ganina, nga only through handling and palpation of kanang sa mga sa specimens kay dira jud maka-gain og real knowledge when it comes to structure and relationship sa function. Also pod magamit mo na siya para ma-distinguish yun nato ma-discrete na to itong kanang especially sa mga diagnosis for example like case sa shoulder pero ito problems ito when it comes to kanang weak rotator cuff muscles. So mo to kailangan jud og kanang handling and palpation. So human body is the most important resource in learning anatomy. So here are some things to consider nga about mga resources. For example, kaning computer resources, there should be an appropriate resources when it comes kanang mga especially sa mga structures like of course kailangan po internet connection nga paspas para dali ma-access. Example kaning mga journals kailangan na to like mga legit nga sites when it comes mag-search tag mga interventions or new advances, di ba? Next kayang physical space in laboratories, so kailangan na space para maka-move ang students from example kanang natay mga kanang natay patient nga gihandle, so kailangan jud na enough space for the students to move para dito adto po sa other sections dira sa laboratory. Dili lang sila secluded sa one space like dire sila maka-learn, so dapat makaadto ta dapat sa other parts sa laboratory para pod maka-learn. Next kang good lighting, so in cases like this kanang sa mga cadaver or kanang mga specimens na sa laboratory. So, gamit din siyang good lighting so that a specimen can be easily seen. Example po sa good ventilation should be considered for preserving specimens, and also kanang carpeting of acoustical panels. For example, kanang acoustical panels karang maka-block og mga noise bitaw, especially mag-doing lectures bitaw para focus sa kayong learning na to. So, note lastly, faculty with particular expertise can have a critical role as sources of information and as teachers. So faculty kay nandiyan sila big role when it comes to how and when to introduce topics, o sila po mismo resource, isa ka learning resource po na sila kay na sila expertise when it comes to that field. Okay, so mora na ang sa first part sa report sa chapter 3. Then si B-Boy na mag-continue.
Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
let's proceed to B-Boy. Sorry lang class ha, magtindog lang ko kay katulugon ko. Okay, nana si Almar na. Okay. So please unmute yourself, Almar.
Kana sir, kita na sir?
Oh, nana.
Okay. So, as we continue na to about the faculty. So, facilitating the learning of basic science. So, faculty with expertise in a particular discipline can be apprehensive about participation and integrated program. Then, ang faculty pod can assume a variety of roles in teaching the basic sciences depending on philosophy and nature of program and student needs. So, depende po na sa faculty nato. Example, kung kinsa tong teacher ani nga subject, depende ra po na siya kung unsa iyang technique nga pag-learn sa sa tua nga students. Sa kabalo ba mo sa McMaster University, student does not have formal anatomy or other basic sciences courses. So, ang ginahimo silang mga estudyante dito kay sila ang nagapangita, sila responsible for identifying when they are unable to adequately meet their learning needs through self-directed learning. Then, when they require additional information, student may seek additional information from faculty or others with expertise in the area. As ingon ni Kuya Rogs pod, pwede pod resources ang faculty nato kung natay malibugan ba or kanang dili ta kabao kung unsay processes ani or anything ba unsa tong pangutana. Then, in other programs, activities such as laboratories, large group session, and lectures may be scheduled, or a hybrid of requested and scheduled sessions are used. Then, when representing to a large group, it can be a challenge to provide the basic science information at a level appropriate for all students. So, dili lang jud dapat, example, master na kani nga kuan. Labi ay uban nga teacher nga, kailangan dapat pantay jud dapat ang unsa kanang yung kanang para siya kanang unsa ba utok nga pag kuan nga kani dapat kabulumuan ni ana diretso dapat it says here dapat level of appropriate for all student nga kanang makasabot jud ang student og sakto. Then so this can provide faculty with important information that enables strategies for them to better targeting for their teaching session to meet the learning needs of their students. And a question asked by one student can also have a catalytic effect on discussion and learning for the whole group. Like katong anang ato group discussion tayo, example na question ng isa, wa dita ka ba lumudi nang nasa una sa isang estudyante, mudi na. So, nana di siya effect nga mas gwapo inong learning kay discussion man. So it's very nice. Then, so with students to develop learning skill, it is important that they understand how they learn. Dili lang sa, okay na ni anak. Dapat masabtan dyan nato kung unsay tumong ani nga, kani nga chapter, unsay tumong ani, and that. It is useful for students to determine the strategies that work best for them. So sa to lahi di tao lahi taninyo strategies nga mag-studies or mag-learn taninyo. Ang uban kay visual lang or ang uban kay kanang in physical, ang uban kay through saba nga abla siya ana para ma-memorize nila lahi na sa to. So students may need assistance also and some even persuasion to develop these skills. The next is the special issues for facilitating the learning of anatomy. So the study of anatomy is in a number of educational programs, in-depth knowledge and understanding the functional morphology being a requirement of many of these programs. Faculty have several roles in facilitating the learning of the anatomy in the integrating curriculum. So, ang mga faculty, they ensure that appropriate stimuli are embedded in the curriculum that students develop the appropriate learning skills unique to anatomy. And that they stimulate and support active learning of relevant information. So, kaya most students approach of anatomy laboratory for the first time with a sense of excitement and enthusiasm. Diba? Kita sa una, first year ta, excited, diba ta guys? Diba guys? Excited ka makalarnog anatomy?
Yeah.
Guys, di ba Kuya Romeo?
Guys, yes.
Excited ta? Di ba Jo? Excited ta? Jeff, di ba excited man ta ninyo mag-learn anatomy? That
Yes.
enables them to
Yes.
quickly become engaged learner. And surprising number of students experience a degree of anxiety. Napoy uban para sa ako lang, hala, unsa kaya ni? Lisod kaya ni? Pagkabalo na ako sa naman ko igagaw, kabalo naman mo, kinsa siya. Ilan ako ingon si someone nga siya. Kailangan biya ka magkuan. Kailangan na mo kabalo sa nerves, sa origin insertion, ani every types of muscle, di lang dito sa bicep dira, dagan pa na. So based ako apil ko ning na degree of anxiety nga hala makasurvive kaya ako ani nga na. So providing a good orientation to learning in human anatomy laboratory provides an important foundation for the students' future learning. Then, so faculty also have an important role in helping students develop the observational and reasoning skills that are particularly important for learning human anatomy. So dapat ang faculty pud kay nakaingon diri nga dapat kung naay man student correctionan tapos kung ingnon sa unsay tama kay para like ang gingon ni dapat ma-improve atong observational and reasoning skills for the future nato kung mag-work na ta as physical therapist. Yeah, so dapat then faculty must ask basic questions in the anatomy laboratory such as what are your learning objectives? What do you think this is and what is its function? Or how do you think it might be injured and how would function be affected like that? 'Di ba nakaagi na naman tayo ni mga guys sa atong line teachers nga mo tanong ani ana, 'di ba? Okay. And so college students to observe, hypothesize,
Yes.
develop reasoning skills, and consider how they can apply the information while they are working with the specimens. So then a faculty member with specific expertise can help guide students learning or provide information with appropriate as their learning skills develop. Students become increasingly efficient and capable of more independent learning. So as a faculty, di pa man ko faculty, pero as a faculty, dapat guide you dapat sa students like kami, labi na sa ako kay di man kay ko fast, mga pre, di kay ko fast. So kailangan jud ko unsa ka ng guide, kung unsay tama, unsay mali para in the future independent pug ko nga learner. Kani, muna ingon ni sir. Sige, muna ni. So in the conclusion na nasa tanan, sa katong sa integrating the basic science into innovation, curricula presents a number of challenges while offering unique opportunities and significant rewards. So the challenges includes determining the important content that is needed and deciding on the most effective strategy for incorporating the content into the curriculum. So, narag yun na sa teacher kung unsay ang strategies nga tudlo sa ato mga pre. Then appropriate resources need to be available to support good learning. Dili man kayo kanang kuan kanang wa kay tay usahay naman tayo ra resources nang kulang ta pero we will napon sa teacher ginatry po jud nila ilang best para maka-come up jud ta good learning para sa ilaha. Di ba sir?
Oh, yes.
So an innovative curriculum with integrated basic science provides students with a stimulating and engaging opportunity for excellence in learning. The desire to learn and understand the subject can be compelling, the knowledge value and its application appreciated. Evaluation should be designed to reinforce integrated learning. So, para sa students, lisod man siya, pero it's for our future and bilang kaya ra nato ni and by the help of our teachers pud nato mag-guide sa atua maka lahutay lagi ta ni. Wala na, last na sir.
Okay. Thank you for the comprehensive report. So it's very understandable regarding how the basic sciences subject should be taught in the or integrated in the curriculum. So here, class, we can see or we have heard from the reporters the how it should be presented in the class, no? Of course, not all faculty are perfect or they can do this, but at least, no, naagi na unta siya, no? Especially with this current situation, it is much more kinahanglan niya mas innovative pag yun ang pag-present sa mga sciences subjects, especially sa professional subjects, no? So, inana. So, I would just like to mention a few areas where or emphasize, no? Several issues nga giraise nila, so, atong i-elaborate further. Okay. So basically, sa pag-present sa mga sciences, let's take for example, anatomy, dapat kuno na siya physio. So it means to say that you cannot just present a subject nga isa ra siya, niya walay complementary. So let's take for example, not only anatomy, no? And let's take for example, imaging. So ang imaging dapat mo coincide pud siya dito sa anatomy, basic anatomy and physio, no? So that's why if you can see sa atong curriculum, it is stage by stage, no? From basic anatomy, then you have your gross. From gross, then you have your imaging, di ba? Kay it is assume nga pag-abot mo sa imaging, di na ka maglisod kay you have already mastered these subjects. And once it is presented, dili lang siya pwede nga sa imaging lagi tanan. So dapat dito po di pa emphasize nimo dito sa imuhang imaging topic unsa na siya structure ang nakita sa image unsa iyang function, no? And again, mo na to mosulod siya kung ma-injured ni unsa may iyang manifestation sa gawas ana para mas masabtan, which basically kani siya dapat naagi siya applications ang knowledge nga gina-present sa learner. Dapat para ang learner iya ma-appreciate ang ihang gikat-unan. Dili lang siya kay for formality sakes. No, kay naaman ko mga uman nga di man na namo magamit in actual practice or in actual setting. Wala man na. So ang presentation dapat kuno is more on the applications of the knowledge, no? And again, so that's why sa inyo, fortunate kayo kita, no, including me, fortunate kayo ko, kay ang pag-present is nagsugod yun siya sa foundation. But there are some schools sa gawas, labi na dito sa gawas, nga pwede ka ka-take og PT, bahala gula kay sciences nga mga courses, pwede ka ka-proceed sa PT, which is very difficult or it's an uphill situation for that students. Why? You will be forced to from the start to learn on your own, no? So self-directed lang ka mo to gay na mention to siya ni Rogs, no? Uh, na dapat maayo ka sa self-directed, no? So ana siya presentation basta sciences, so dapat naa siya ay complementary subjects, no? Ma-complement siya ba? So let's take for example, when you are going to teach cardiac, no? Cardiac rehab. Dili raman pwede nga cardiac rehab lang because ang output sa cardiac should be captured by the pulmonary because they are related, no? So that's why it goes together, cardiopulmonary rehabilitations. Kay these two are very much related to each other, no? They complement. So inana siya para mas masabtan kuno ang application. So the knowledge that you gain should be dynamic, no? Dynamic and the integral part of your thinking and reasoning and problem solving. So dapat ang nagain mo nga knowledge sa klase, imo siyang ma-apply. You should learn how to use it in application. Dili nimo siya dito ibutang lang sa isa kana ra siya nga aspect, no? Dalon nimo siya sa clinical, no? Of course, we can bring that to clinical or to the application if we'll be guided rightly by our teachers or by our faculty, no? So inana na siya. So ah importante pud kaayo ang ah, ingon siya diri ang pagkuan pod labi na karon sa online learning dapat ang i-present ra gyud halos sa teacher is unsay kinahanglan sa students. What do students need to know? Mo po na ang inyong kwan. Kung if you want to study these subjects, unsa magyud ang gusto ni sir nga makatunan nako. So that's why you need to go to their objectives, no? Kanang naa sa syllabus or naa sa module, learning objectives mo na imong tan-awon. Unsa may dapat unsa day gikuan diri ni sir dapat kabalo ko og mag magkuan let's take for example, basic anatomy sa kuan sa heart dapat kabalo ko ani. Ako ni siyang tun-an kay naa man gyud siya diri sa objectives, no? Kay mao na in which kinahanglan gyud na nato mabal-an na siya basic anatomy. Clinical manifestation, signs and symptoms sa mga conditions, di ba? So dapat ako ni siyang katunan. Unsa may ako makit-an di ay? Pag klase, wala man ko kabalo unsa ning singkop. Ako din pangutan-on si sir unsa day ning singkop. O syncope. Unsa day na siya? Uma ko kabaluan ng clinical manifestation. Unsay kalahian sa nausea ug vomiting? Unsa man ang nausea? Is it the same with fainting? It is the same with ana. So these are things that you need to know. So kung dili ka mangutana as a students, of course usually ang teacher would assume kabalo na ta ana, di ba? O unsay kalahian sa nausea o sa dizziness. No? Diba? So we should learn how to, not only the teacher should entice the student to participate, to ask question, but ikaw mismo, you should learn how to raise question that would encourage you to learn more, no? Nana. Kay we must understand that your faculty or your teacher is just a facilitator on your subject, no? Ikaw ra siya facilitate. So kung question, wala ka mangutana, no? Or kung gyud ka di pangutanan nimo si imong teacher. So amo to no i-balance ang tactile o visual o unsa pa to nga mga pedagogy sa learning. So naa na siya, so dapat ato ni siyang ikuan pod, no? So i-consider gyud ikaw pod as students imo pod na siyang i-consider. So let's take for example, I am just a tactile person. How could I learn from this? Nga tactile man ko nya wala may ko direct contact karon kay online man, no? How do I know? Ay magbut ako di ay maghimo nga specimen. Wa may specimen karon, no, nga kan. Ay tactile, okay. Unsa day nang crackles. Ako di ay magkuan. Butang day kog stethoscope. Paminawan ako akong kagalingon. O diri butang na ako na diri. Be mag-inhale ko unsa ako madunggan sa stethoscope. See, you will have now your tactile. Wala kay kuan kay ikaw raman isa, wa kay ka partner. Use your brother. Use your silingan, use your uyab. Use your uyab in a nice way, ha, dili kay gamiton sa whatever, ha. Gamiton sa insakto nga pamaagi, ha. Basi mi sir insakto man kay naa man mi sa katre. Now dili ana, ha. As patient, okay? No? As patient. Kung nagana na lang ko nga daan. So, inhana na siya class, no? Sa pag-abot sa ato ang klase, no? Especially in this pandemic, no? So, here, so of course, kabalo na to for basic, no? For basic intelligence, particularly sa to, verbal, linguistic, bodily kinesthetic. So pag kuanin mo, unsa din siyang mag-ingon ka segmental breathing. How do I perform segmental breathing? Unsa day na? Unya ang assignment ra ba na dito sa cardiopulmonary kay maghimo og sa to? Video instruction, no? Instructional video about segmental breathing. How to perform this? I need to search on this. And you need to perform it by yourselves also before you are going to give instruction, di ba? Kay unsa ni mo pagkabalo nga insakto? kung dili nimo siya i-perform sa imuha, no, based sa imuhang nabasa. So that's an example of, I mean, bodily kinesthetic because you are moving, no? So you want to move. Inana din na siya ang coughing, no? Sa instruction niya mo ni. No? Naa dito aning libro na aman siya coughing technique kung saan pag-perform sa coughing. Pag ubo nga insakto. So tanahon ako, ana di ay. Kung dili madala pag yun nga ikaw ra ang magbasa, di ka pag kasabot. Tanaw kuno ko sa video am nang naaba ni siya sa YouTube ang proper coughing na by demonstration. I-search daw nako sa internet kung unsay kuan. So pwede ka dito magkuan. Ana di ay no. Aside sa imong nabasa, na-enforce pagid ka og visual, no? Then you have already also performed it nga bodily kinesthetic nimo, din tanaw nimo ay napaday ko dapat i-improve ato kaysa diri sa video lahi man. So inana, no? So ma-reinforce siya. So actually, inanin siya class. It not necessarily mean that if you are a kinesthetic or a tactile individual in learning, ana na lagi ka tanan. Exclusive na lang ka ana. No. You still need other type of learning strategies in order to become well equipped. So kinalagyapon nimo tong visual, audio, kinalagyapon to nimo. Kay kato sila mahimo to siyang reinforcement, no. Kung unsa pay kulang sa imong nakatunan pinagi sa inana nga klase sa learning. So inana na siya ang sekreto, no. Matud pa diri. So here, especially karon, wa man tay laboratory gyud nga physical. So how can I learn? Mo ni pangutanan nato, wa man tay specimen, no? Gamit na ato diri spirometer, no, na ahikuan whatever. Pero how do we use it? Then that's the time that there is what we call applications that could help us learn, di ba? Sa anatomy, di ba, natay 3D, no? Nay 3D nga mga application sa anatomy. In fact, naagani si nasa inyo na, no? Na mo yung mga inana, anatomy pa lang dito na ang 3D sa tanang system, muscle, whatever. So those are examples, no? So resources, no? So that will be part of the resources, no? Kanang mga inana. So media, social media could be used also as the resources. Diba sa YouTube, no? Diyan sa YouTube, those are social media. But not only that, it could be also na sa mga uploaded videos dito that could be used by you. Let's take for example, sa pa sa mga subjects na sa sciences, let's take for example Physiopedia. Sa imaging, you have your Radiopedia. So these are resources that could help you enhance your knowledge. No? Research, pwede ka maadto mismo sa APTA. No? Dito sa ilang website na dito sila yung mga archive articles. You can search for there. No? Pwede sa EBSCOhost. These are online resources. No? Na, yung mga libro, magazines, journals. So inana. That's why you can join the no, mga free websites, free streaming, no? Para ma-enhance ang imong knowledge dira. Okay? Let's take for example, itong last Sunday, diba? Ang Sunday, ang topic nato is about female athlete. And it's very, very informative, no? Indot ka itong ihang ko ano nga menstruation really affects women's performance, although sa research wala pa kaayo gud siya proof, no? Kay pero dito nakitaan nga it may not affect the performance but it may affect the prevention of injury during sa activity, no? OCP, over the counter pill, diba dito, no? Kay usually athletes would try to take that para lang dili sila mag-menstruation, in which menstruation is very important also in normalizing body functions. that could enhance your performance. So inhana siya, no? So daghan siya makatunan. So daghan ta mag-gain na knowledge, no? This knowledge could be added up. Sir, dili man na namo magamit kay sports man to. But when once you reach your metabolic and endocrine nga conditions, matingin ka nga ay importante unta to, no? Kay katudi ay mga metabolic man ito nga mga klase sa kuano, sa endocrine man ito. So inana siya. Diba? Ang presentation dito na Japanese doctor is more on metabolic man siya. Kay hormonal changes, OCP, menarche, siya pa na, wala kayo siya gani nag-mentions dito about sa mga other issues sa women, no? So, inana. So, any questions? So, anyway, I'm recording this and I will be uploading this reports dito sa Moodle so that you could also view the slides that the Rogues and Almar presented this afternoon. No more clarification?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so our exam, we will have our quiz tomorrow sa cardiopulmo. Our topic there sa tong cardiopulmo is about cardiac arrhythmias, and dito pag sa gi-upload na ko nga video, we have there valvular diseases and peripheral arterial disease and thrombophlebitis, no? So, agma ang discussion is arterial diseases and thrombophlebitis. And then, so ugma ta natay quiz dito pero not during the class, virtual class. No, it will be after sa virtual class until it will be Thursday para klaro na lang. Okay. Wala na. So, see you this coming tomorrow sa ato ang cardiopulmo nga klase. Okay, thank you, sir, reporter. So, next reporter, please prepare for your report. And I think that is Johanna and, is it Johanna and Juan?
Yes, sir. Kami ni Kuya Nelson.
And Nelson. I don't know what happened to Nelson, why he is absent today. Okay, thank you.
Internet.
Bye, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, sir.